Great. Are you ready to practice today and get messy?
Well, I'm here to learn. I just want to see what this is all about, and I'm curious about Transform.us. So definitely, this is one of the things I signed up to understand, learn, and get started.
Very well said. They are the heart and soul.
Yeah.
And Vivek, welcome to the presentation, Jim. I believe you're here to do your plug and play practice.
That's the one, yeah.
Fantastic. All right, we have Rajan joining us today. Rajan, welcome to the presentation, Jim.
Yes.
I think are you coming in for some plug and play practice?
Yes.
Fantastic. David, welcome to the presentation, Jim. We're still in the green room portion for another minute before we kick off. What do you want to work on today?
Well, then I'll say hello. Thank you. Today, I would just like to work on my two-dimensional skills. I want to keep my eyes on the camera. I want to be centered. Here I am kind of at the home front. Pay no attention to that background or that man behind the curtain. And I'm looking forward to it. I really like where you're going with preparing for 2025 in general. So there's a lot of things I have coming up, including a potential road show. Well, definitely a road show. So I'm excited to sharpen those skills like everyone else.
Fantastic. And, okay, so this is how the presentation, Jim, works. I'm going to go ahead and spotlight me and Irma, and we're going to do a micro training. The micro training is something that takes place within 15 minutes. And then each of you will get to be on stage, and you have three options. Number one, simply ask a question. If you're not up for presenting anything today, Irma and I were at your disposal. Ask a presentation related question. Number two, you could bring a portion of your presentation and practice it and get feedback from the both of us and from whoever has joined us today. And the third one is there's an exercise. So based on the micro training that Irma and I are going to teach, there's going to be an opportunity for you to do the scripted exercise. So there's three options: ask a question, rehearse a part of your presentation, or do the exercise that we had in mind for you today. So what we've done in this quarter is we've talked about how to prepare for the company kickoff meeting. Everybody is planning for next year. There's going to be a town hall meeting where we kick off our direction, our plans, our strategy. And what we've done is we've gone around the circle here, covering the 7 voices of leadership. We talked about introduction. This is how you open a presentation. And what voice you use for introductions is that of a contributor. Workout number 2 was case study. And obviously, case study, you're using the voice of a storyteller. The third voice we covered was sales. A lot of you are giving sales presentations, and you really want to use the voice of a trusted advisor. The fourth voice is that of a visionary. A visionary tells you what is possible, what growth metrics, goals can we reach. The fifth voice is that of a leader. Now, we did that last week, and the leader gives us the answer to the question, where are we going? And today, we're going to be covering the voice of a teacher. Now, the voice of a teacher, and this is perfect because the universe always aligns things perfectly for us. You're answering the question, how will we get there? So if the leader has given you a direction, the teacher gives us a step-by-step on how to get there. Imra, when it comes to teaching, there's a lot of situations where we do teaching. I mean, you're a formal teacher, but where is it most important to teach your audience something in a precise and concise manner?
So ask the question again. I missed the first part.
Yeah, so obviously, we're talking about teaching situations.
Right.
The ones I have on the screen are teaching situations, internal trainings, product demos, like on the plug and play stage, joint ventures where you're teaching a new partner about your company and how we will work together. But for you, in your line of work, where is it important for us to teach or to bring out our teaching?
It's just such an interesting question to me because as a teacher, I think every moment is a teaching moment. So
It is.
I don't
It is.
I don't have like I don't have one that kind of um one distinction over the other, right? Because I'm always wanting to educate and to teach and to share
Mhm.
like what's important and what and just to share my knowledge. However, I can get caught up in like geeking out on certain things. So there's certain things that I know I can geek out with this person, and then other things that I need to pull back a little bit. I think every opportunity though is a teaching opportunity, kind of like every call is a sales call. So I don't make a distinction. However, in the slide that's presented here, internal trainings, right? Product demos and joint ventures. And it's really important to also educate your audience, right? To educate your audience as far as like why this is important, what this is about, and to do it in a way that's engaging. And if you can do it that way, then those individuals in your audience can go in and share your message. And that's really the goal, is that somebody walks away with one nugget or two nuggets. But to think that they can do this dissertation as well as you did, or they're going to remember every single word that you say, it's just not going to happen. Especially in today's world where everything is bidding for our attention and everything is calling our attention. Even when you have somebody in front of you or you have an audience, it's your job, especially as a teacher, to capture their attention and just give them one or two, maybe three items to walk away with. So be very intentional in whatever it is that you're sharing and teaching.
So, what I heard was, I mean, it really is two parts, the voice of a teacher. It's like what you teach, and the second one is how you teach it.
Yes.
I I heard you say one or two nuggets of wisdom. And Vivek, you asked that question. How do I not make it a data dump? Because you have this limited amount of time and you only can fit in one or two that will make a difference. Right? A data dump causes confusion, causes overwhelm. But when it's carefully curated, that's going to be the nugget that gets you that second conversation. Irma, I'm going to put you in your professional role. You
Mhm.
teach classrooms in front of prospective insurance professionals. And obviously, you have a book that's like this big, but you don't teach every single page. What are some of your tips when it comes to curating the best amount to teach for the time frame that's in front of me?
Well, first of all, I think one of the most important takeaways is to stir curiosity, to inspire curiosity, to get your audience curious about what you have to share. When you're in the weeds about things, a lot, especially if you're in the weeds, sometimes you get stuck with jargon, you get stuck with technical language that maybe the audience isn't familiar with, or maybe you have to remind them. One of my biggest irritations is when people use acronyms. Acronyms are great if your audience is at that level of knowledge or that level of expertise. But even if they are, never take for granted to share what that acronym means before you use it. Or if you use the acronym, define it, because so many acronyms these days can mean more than one thing. And so you want to remind them of what that is. You don't want them thinking about what did they just say? Because then they have a gap in what they heard from you. So acronyms, minimize that. Again, curate. I can't believe I just used a filler word. I just heard myself use a filler word. I do not use filler words. I don't know if you heard it, but I did. It's let's not use that. So and I lost my train of thought. Anthony, can you get me back on track, please?
Yeah, curation. And
Oh
and
yeah.
speak to Vivek specifically, because Vivek, he's in the insurance industry. He has tons to share. If we ask him to teach for an hour, that's going to be easy. But he doesn't have an hour. He
Yeah.
has what, 4
4
minutes.
minutes. Yeah.
So
I think
what
the
nugget of wisdom?
curation, I'm sorry, Anthony, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's good. What's a nugget of wisdom for Vivek and our entire audience?
Curation is a sign that you really know your stuff, because you're able to take the complex and make it simple. You're able to take the complex and give the information that's going to yield the most content. So I always say that I share information that's going to give you the highest value, that's going to encompass a little bit more. Again, you can go abstract and then get more specific. When you're abstract, you can stir curiosity and people want to know more. Then you can get more specific. So the levels of the information that you're sharing is you share a big piece and then maybe share one or two specific things. Again, being an expert at curating the information, because all of us, especially when you're passionate about your business, you're passionate about what you're sharing, you want to cause interest, anytime you have like this passion, we can like forget ourselves, like I do, right? You can get away from yourself and go off on a tangent or share too much information, and then you've lost your audience. And you don't want that. You want to capture their attention and stir their curiosity. And you do that with less is more. I mean, less is more in teaching, less is more in communication, less is more in so many different places, because you want them to walk away with one or two things. The other thing I want to add to this, especially as a teacher, it doesn't matter what the age is. Repetition, it's okay to repeat yourself. I can't tell you how many times, I've seen people like they want to say it again, but remember, there's more than one way to say the same thing. So you have a message, you're clear on your message. And if you have 3 or 4 ways to say that same message, it's going to land differently with people. And again, that is a sign of somebody who's very well versed in what they're sharing and well versed in their company and their business. It also shows your versatility and your ability to change the conversation or shift the conversation to engage more of your audience. Because one audience has a certain listening, and then another part of your audience is going to have another. And you want to speak to all of them. So again, having that versatility, sharing your message in more than one way, and repeat yourself. It's okay to repeat yourself. The callback, right? We see it all the
Yes.
comedians do it all the time, and you're still laughing about it and then sharing that callback with a friend. So it's okay to do that in a pitch. It's okay to do that when you're sharing a message.
Imran, what struck me most from what you just said, less is more. I mean, here on the screen, we have 7 voices. Now, the beginner may make the mistake of, I got 7, I'm going to teach all 7. I'm going to be super fast, right? More is more. But really, if I was to walk away from this workout knowing how to do the teacher voice well, it'll be great. Because if I or not if, Irma, when we teach this well, you're going to ask us for a second conversation. Or you're going to ask us, where can I learn more? And if I'm going to put into chat, there's an article I wrote about all 7 voices. Click on it and you can read more about 7, but we're focusing on one here, the teacher voice. So this is what to say, as Irma reminds us, less is more. 1 or 2 nuggets of wisdom. Vivek, keep that in mind as you take the stage next week. Now, that's what. Let's talk about the how. I'm going to set up the how because I'm going to bring myself back to when I was at UC Berkeley, and David knows what I'm talking about. There were some professors who were there and they spoke in monotone voice. They spoke like they didn't want to be there. It's like, I don't want to be here. But I remember this is one finance professor I had, and his rooms were always packed. People never missed his classes. And it's because he geeked out about finance. And because he was passionate about it, I want to be in the room. There's another professor. I never had a chance to take a class from him, but he taught astronomy. His name is Alex Filipenko. And I support him every year at the Sonoma, Authors Festival. And, he's not in a classroom, but he's so passionate about astronomy that everybody's bought in. So Irma, how you say something when you teach is critically important, right? Tone of voice, energy is just as important as content. Break that down for us.
Well, again, one is you got to be practiced, right? And you got to know your stories through storytelling and being congruent with what you're sharing. There's a magic in this kind of connection that takes place between you and the learner, you and your audience, right? When you are able to share in a story with the story and have it be related and relevant to your to what you're sharing. But the other thing I want to add too, like, it's kind of interesting, like you have organized there. I think if you're the beginner's mind, it's important to be organized, because once you have it organized, then you have the freedom to be creative. And the creativity oftentimes happens in the moment when you've checked the boxes of being organized, curating your information. And when you're passionate and enthusiastic about it, you get yourself in the zone. And sometimes you don't even remember what you said, but because you've done all of the preparation for it, it shows up in this way of inspiring and wanting the next conversation and then asking more questions.
Thanks, Irma. So this is the how the voice sounds. Let's talk about audience journey. Every single workout, we have the audience in mind. And when you do this well, you've created 3 experiences. There's a call to think, there's a call to feel, which then primes them for the call to act. Now, what you're doing from a call to think is they're a student. They come in not knowing something. The journey from the head standpoint, student to practitioner, teach them a little bit of something so that they can use it somewhere in their life. That's the call to think. The call to feel, they're coming in confused. Like, how do I solve this problem? It's really been frustrating me. And when they leave, they're clear, right? They feel clear, they feel confident. So that's a feeling. And then the call to act. If you've given them the experience of moving from now I know something, I feel confident about it. A normal invitation for me would be next time you find yourself in a teaching moment, use this voice. Use the tips that Irma and I shared with you today. Irma, before we jump into the prompts, when you end a class, what are some of the things that you do as your call to act?
It depends. I oftentimes I will recap what I just said in a very kind of in a synopsis. And then I will invite them to do more, like, okay, check out this website or answer. One of the things that I've been doing a lot lately is asking for a questionnaire. Like I'll have them do a really helpful. And again, it doesn't even have to be like this lengthy quiz. Like even if you're asking, let's see, you're asking for them to take the next step. And that could be really simple by just posing a question of whatever it is you want them to do next. It doesn't have to be like they're going to answer it. It can even be a rhetorical question in some cases. Again, it's contextual, right? So be very thoughtful about what that last question you want to leave them with, because that last question will leave them in the inquiry of wanting to know more. That's just a trick.
And yeah, and Vivek and Rajan, the next step obviously is a second conversation. Right? You've presented on the stage. You know, obviously they're not going to write you a check right there, but success is, you know, I'm going to be on the second floor in the networking lounge. Find me there. I'd love to continue the conversation. That's a good next step. Minu, if you're presenting at Transform, the same thing. You know, it's been a pleasure being on the stage and participating in this panel. We have a lunch coming up in the courtyard. Find me. I love to continue the conversation. So in a teaching moment, for me, there's one of 2 things. Use this nugget at the earliest opportunity or find me and I'd love to share more. So Irma, let's go into the prompts. So again, you have 3 choices. You can choose to do this exercise. You can choose to do your own presentation, or you can just ask us a question. So the prompts for us today are going to be this. And the text might be small, so I'm also going to put it in chat. So what you're going to do is you're going to start off with the purpose of this training, right? The purpose of why we're here today, ... So that's your first sentence. The purpose of this training is to learn how to use the voice of a teacher, as an example. Here is our framework. Okay. Our framework is you want to be a good curator, right? Call to think, and you want to have the student feel something about it. Call to think, call to feel. Right? That's our framework. And this is how we win or how we do this. And if we were to use Irma's example, in your call to think, keep it to 1 or 2 nuggets of wisdom. Less is more. Okay? And as you're teaching, be confident, be fun, be creative. When you're in that state, you'll look like you're passionate about your topic, which will spark the passion in your students. So that's essentially an example of how we would do it, teaching what we do. If you want to do this exercise, the 3 prompts are in the chat, and we invite you to play with this. Irma, any nuggets of wisdom before we bring folks to the stage for their practice time?
I think that what a thought that came to me is a lot of times like people think of like learning as, oh, it's hard, or they've had like learning challenges, or like they just don't, maybe they don't have a very good relationship with learning. So then teaching, they don't think they can teach. I think that if you're having fun and you have something to share, you're always teaching. And so just have fun with it. It's okay to be messy because it shares your humanity, right? And people are empathetic towards that. And so they even get more buy-in with you. But if you try to fake your way through it, it's incongruent and it's not authentic. And so just remember to have fun, and it's okay to be messy, especially when you're in the gym with us. And it doesn't have to be perfect. So yeah, just play with the prompts or whatever it is you're going to share with us to get feedback today.